Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here. Yeah, sorry, 9:01. I apologize. I was trying to take all of my morning medicine off camera and try to rush it. It's like 8:59. It's like, oh crap! I've got to get stuff. I got to get stuff done so we can start the show at 9:00. Reason it's at 9 is greetings and salutations, Alex. How you doing? Is that we got conference calls to catch up with the head coach of Atlanta United 2, Steve Cook, at 11:00. So he's getting ready for Crown Legacy, and that's another part of the weekend. Very, very busy weekend across the board. Alex, have you got your reservation in for Brewhouse? And the appearance of a couple of Newcastleian individuals for the match tomorrow morning. So there you go. There you go, Alex. Nicely done. For those of you who are interested in catching up with someone who is part of the Atlanta United Pantheon, Darren Eales is going to be a part of the show at the Brewhouse. And they're going to be watching the match. They're going to be watching the Newcastle match very, very early in the morning. I will probably be just waking up early part of second half. And Darren is going to be a part of a kind of a highfalutin thing. A highfalutin thing, and that's the official word. It is highfalutin. And it's very, very cool that somebody that we all know is going to be there, and Nabi Solano is going to be there as well. So you can go to the Brewhouse Cafe, and you've got to register for the event. You've got to register. You can't just show up. So go to the Brewhouse Cafe on Instagram or Brewhouse on all of their social media platforms. Doors open at 6:30 in the morning for a pre-match Q&A. That's an early morning, man. Somebody's going to be needing a nap. Kickoffs at 7:30 against Leeds. Big match for Leeds in the relegation fight. So if I'm getting this straight, and wow, okay, so Nabi Solano played at Boca with Maradona too. So living legends, Darren Eales, Nabi Solano, and Alex Pacine. They're going to be at the Brewhouse tomorrow morning, bright and early. 6:30 is when everything starts with the Q&A and the breakfast and all that. Matches at 7:30. And a very, very busy day in the Premier League. We set it all up for you earlier in the week on Prem and Proper, where you get to hear from some of the coaches from the previous week and a half. Sprint is there. So Darren Eales is going to be in town. So we'll see what happens with Darren. And Nabi Solano and Alex and everybody at the Brewhouse tomorrow morning. But before that, I say, you have at Reverb tonight at the Hard Rock Hotel on top of the Hard Rock. It is our get-together, and it is, if memory serves, and it is going to be me, Jason, Jarrett, Nick, Mike, and Jessica Charman talking about anything and everything soccer. There is a match that's going on tomorrow night that we'll talk about too. So if you haven't, double check on the Flood Project. And yeah, we'll get into Open Cup matchups coming up in just a bit. But if there are spots left, check on the Flood Project site, check on their Facebook and all of their social media, and you can come in and hang out with us. I think we're going from 7 to 9 tonight at the Reverb. And it'll be fun to catch up with everybody. Great to see everybody. And then that sets up what's going on tomorrow night with Atlanta United and Charlotte, 7:39 kick. Some of us will be there 5 hours early to get you ready for the whole experience. And then, by the way, that reminder, if you haven't done anything for your moms, do stuff for your moms. Do stuff for your moms. And get that taken care of. What you might want to do is take your mom to the Fraction. Take your family to the Fraction. Have your mom a part of the whole thing. 5 o'clock kick shortly thereafter, up at Fifth Third and Kennesaw. It's what they've done with MLS Next Pro and MLS. I think it's a very, very good idea. You have first team and second team back-to-back days, And so you get the first team Saturday night. On Sunday afternoon, 5 o'clock kick shortly thereafter. You can also hear it on the SDH network. That it is going to be Crown Legacy and Atlanta United 2. Crown Legacy's off to a hot start in the Eastern Conference. 19 points, I think, in their first 7 matches. And so full weekend of everything soccer. Brew House early on Saturday morning. Get your nap in. Atlanta United and Charlotte Saturday night. Sunday afternoon, Mother's Day, Atlanta United 2, Crown Legacy up in Kennesaw. So your weekend is set for you here in the Atlanta area. So Reverb tonight, Brew House tomorrow morning. And yes, Nick, that is very correct. The unified team plays after the first team on Saturday. So that makes it even more full. And as I've heard a vicious rumor that the game's going to be streamed. If for some reason, but you can watch the stream on your device while you're sitting there and you're watching the match in front of you. So let me recap because Nick's excellent addendum. Nick, thank you for this. So it is Reverb tonight, Brew House tomorrow morning, Atlanta United, Charlotte FC, the unified match after that. Then on Sunday at 5 o'clock, it is Crown Legacy and Atlanta United 2. So that is your full weekend. That it's all taken care of. So everything you need to do this weekend, it's all taken care of. And it's all good. And it'll be great to see everybody in every part of the entire weekend. So very, very cool stuff there. Opening kickoff, as we always sit there and we go. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And once again, thanks to everybody who has been investing in Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your investment, and they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game and youth initiatives that they have circled. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. We were talking yesterday about how Major League Soccer had to suspend a player for who is currently under a gambling investigation in their native country. And so let me recap that before we move it any further. And it was Max. And with what he has been charged with in Brazilian courts, so it has now expanded to 16 individuals who are now currently under investigation in this particular match fixing allegation. So Colorado suspends Max. MLS says that they released a statement. They'd announced that a player had been suspended but didn't identify, and they said it was Colorado. ESPN reported on Wednesday, citing the source, that it was Max. So MLS issues a statement. Then Brazilian state prosecutors now have charged 16 people. 16. Including 7 professional soccer players with alleged match fixing and illegal betting in what threatens to be one of the largest scandals since Brazil legalized sports gambling in 2018. Brazilian Justice Minister Flavio Dino ordered the federal police to launch an investigation into the scheme after the charging documents were published. Prosecutors of the Public Ministry of Goiás said the alleged offenses took place in 13 matches in Series A and B of the Brazilian Championship, including 8 played in 2022. According to the charging documents, a criminal gang paid players to commit infractions and would then bet on such outcomes to win payouts when the offenses occurred. The group would offer up to $100,000, 500,000 reais, as an upfront payment to the players from clubs such as Santos, Juventude, Cuiabá, Cruzeiro, Atlético Paranaense, Internacional, and Fluminense, according to what the prosecutors allege. Santos defender Eduardo Bowerman is accused of receiving at least 10 grand to get a yellow card in a match against Aval. Gabriel Tota, Paulo Miranda, Igor Karius, Victor Ramos, Fernando Neto, and Mateus Gomez are among the other players charged. Brazilian Football Fed sent a letter to the Presidency of the Republic and the Ministry of Justice requesting that federal police be involved in the case. Sports betting has been legal in Brazil only since 2018 when the country allowed online gambling. It's exploded since then, currently preparing laws to tax and regulate the sector. Max joined the Rapids from Flamengo before the 2022 season, made 31 appearances for the club across all comps, 12 appearances for the club so far this year, including a start in the 3-1 win over the Galaxy. So now we know it is up to 16 individuals that are under investigation in Brazil. So we've got that going on. Open Cup. I know that we had mentioned what's going on in Open Cup, and Bam is already talking about matchups and frozen ping pong balls and envelopes and things like that. So we now have our matchups in the whole thing. Inter Miami and Nashville. They're going to be at DRV PNK on the 23rd. Red Bulls and FC Cincinnati. That's going to be at Red Bull. Houston hosting the Loons at Shell Energy. And El Tráfico. El Tráfico on the board. El Tráfico. As Bam says, I can't believe they went with balls and not envelopes. And you got Carson at home. I guess that's what happens when you go with ping pong balls and not envelopes. So at BMO Stadium this time, El Tráfico late night on the 23rd. Pittsburgh and Columbus. That's at Highmark. That's an interesting one. Both USL Championship teams got home matches. And both of them are that Wednesday night, the 24th. Pittsburgh and Columbus. Birmingham and Charlotte. Austin and Chicago Fires at Q2, and then the Rapids and Real Salt Lake. So those are your final 8 matchups in the round of 16 on the 23rd and the 24th. So that's what you're staring at with the 23rd and the 24th when it comes to your U.S. Open Cup, and that's what happens when you use ping pong balls, and that's what you're staring at with that particular element. So ping pong balls gives you LAFC at home, and that's what you're staring at. Tafka's early thoughts this morning. MLS doing a disservice to themselves by being incooperative with USL, and a major structural shift is needed for MLS. Current format leaves so much to be desired, in my opinion. Thus ends the PSA from Tafka this morning. Bam, you get to watch you get to watch your AFL while our show starts. I watch late night U.S. time for the afternoon games on Saturday and Sunday when they're on FS2. So I'm right there with you. So West Coast is getting blowed out by Gold Coast. 6 minutes to go. Probably getting close to the end in that one. But, they gave us the Sydney Swans match this past weekend on late night. So I get to watch that. But, that is my guilty pleasure. It is my absolutely guilty pleasure, hanging out late and watching the AFL. And I also actually listen to it if I'm not near a match, and I'll listen to it on Triple M. And so Triple M talks footy, and so I'll listen to it that way. So I'll listen to Triple M, and so it's right here on the phone. I'm right there with you. But guilty pleasure when it comes to the AFL. All right, this morning before 9:30. When our friends from Beyond Goals hop in, and it's either going to be Greg Garza or Michael Parkhurst. Kind of get you ready for the weekend. Sam Allardyce, and this, Alex, this applies to you. We have the circular logic here, the opening kickoff. Sam Allardyce has warned his players they cannot afford to lose the match with Newcastle, and has challenged his squad to use the fear of relegation to spur them to safety in their final 3 matches. 2 points from safety. They host Newcastle for the early morning match here before facing West Ham away, who might be focused on chasing after their first title in 47 years, so they might be distracted, and Spurs at home. Allardyce said his goal was to get to the final day with a chance of survival, losing to Manchester City in that first match. He believes a positive result on Saturday is vital. We must get something. Biggest thing that can happen on Saturday is that we don't lose. And we've got a point on the board. I want to still be in it when we play Tottenham, but the fear of relegation needs to drive them on. The fear of losing their Premier League status should make them fight hard. So Sam Allardyce has put the fear of relegation into his team. Let me ask you this. Don't you think you know that? Don't you think you know? You know, if you're a player, if you're a player and your job is on the line. Your job is on the line here. And your manager says, you know, hey, I got to put the fear of relegation in them. I would think that they already know that, but you feel like you have to do that publicly. I don't quite get that. I would think that every single day, especially the way that the season has gone for those folks at the bottom, and I mean, Nix knows about this, and when you have one of these specters hanging over your head, wouldn't you think you know? If you, and I'm putting this out here for the Twitch pitch. I'm putting this out here for the Twitch pitch this morning. If you were a player, or, you know, Nix, in your case, you know, you can look at it from that advanced perspective of what is going on currently in a relegation fight. I would think that you would know that the pressure is already on you. Pressure is on Leeds. Pressure's on Leeds at a plus 367, but they're in the relegation fight already. They get it. Pressure's on Forest on the road at 10 o'clock at a plus 560 going to Chelsea, to Stamford Bridge. Pressure's on Southampton at a plus 181 as a home dog as Fulham visits. Pressure's on Everton on Sunday at 9 o'clock at a plus 786 going up against Manchester City. And the pressure on Monday Night Football is on Leicester at a plus 409 as they host Liverpool. So I would think that they already know that. I would think that they know that. So when you have one of these, when your coach publicly decide that they want to, you know, put this added kind of pressure on you. And the next time that we have one of our friends from Beyond Goals, I want to talk about pressure in this context since it's come up this morning. I'd think I already know, you know? And when your manager's dropping this kind of stuff publicly on you, I would think that part of you is like, yeah, dude, I already get it. And then the other part of me would probably sit there and go, bruh. Literally, that's how you started. You go, bruh. You know, why are you saying these kinds of things publicly to add on to the pressure that I already know is there? Just asking. I mean, it's I would be really, you know, the pressure's bad enough as it is. I don't know if Sam Allardyce is adding on to it. And Alex, I know. I mean, Alex, on the Newcastle side of things, he says he's still in disbelief that it's a critical relegation match and they're not the ones in danger. but you've invested well. You haven't overinvested. You've been relatively healthy, and you haven't been like Chelsea, who's tried to outspend their way into or overspend their way into success. I should have worn my Bournemouth gear this morning, but I mean, Eddie Howe has always known how to do more with less. Did that at Bournemouth, kept them afloat for the longest time. And no matter what was, put in front of him at Bournemouth financially or a lack of financially, he always tried to find a way to make sure that Bournemouth was afloat. You look at what is currently going on. I mean, and Alex, I'm sure that you could very easily be driven crazy by the match tomorrow morning. I don't know why Sam didn't just turn it into a kickabout against Manchester City. I mean, it took like 55 minutes, I think, 55 or 60 minutes for Manchester City to score. I would have anticipated that Sam Allardyce would have turned all of these matches that he knew he was outgunned into kickabouts. Basically, just hoof it, launch it, and sit. Bottom line is you need points. And going back to the Sam Allardyce lessons, Sam Allardyce's points for survival. And this is a survival blueprint that has lasted since 2017. And I think it's only failed him once with West Brom. And once again, West Brom, for those of you that haven't had the chance to read the story, I think it's in the Athletic. They're hurting financially. So it would be very, very it's interesting to keep an eye on what's going on with West Brom. So Big Sam's points for survival. And there's like a 7-point plan. Clean sheets. How do you keep a clean sheet? Obviously, you don't let the ball get in the back of the net. But if you keep it from going, going away, just kick the ball away. Don't want it. It's got cooties. I would have anticipated that would have been happening already. Don't lose possession in your own half. Play the first pass forward. When knockdowns and transitions. Set pieces. Exploit the opposition's weaknesses, which to me has always been a gigantic duh. And quality in the final third. So a lot of this stuff is just a duh. Yeah, clean sheets. You get a point out of the deal. Don't lose possession in your own half. Duh. Exploit the opposition's weaknesses. Duh. Quality in the final third. Duh. Play the first pass forward, winning knockdowns and transitions and set pieces. Set pieces, set pieces, set pieces. First pass forward. I was brought up to always make your first pass forward if you can. Even against the best defensive team in the Premier League, it's a quick forward pass that creates opportunity to score. Too many sideways or backward passes allow the opposition to get back into their own half and put up 2 banks of 4. So that's the Sam Allardyce 7 points for survival. I'm surprised it's not a book. But, I mean, seriously, if you think about it, he's even gone against his own blueprint in that first match with Manchester City. I would have, and I'm serious, I literally would have anticipated that Sam Allardyce would have made the most boring stuff ever to try to get points. That top point, clean sheets. Other dude doesn't score, you leave the building with a point. Then make it boring AF. Get out of there with a point. I mean, Nottingham Forest, where Steve Cooper is concerned, and yes, they finally do have more points than transfers. And Evangelinos Marinakis has spent $200 million. Steve Cooper is going down swinging. If they're going down, they're going down swinging. They got to do it on points because their goal difference is hideous. But in the last match that they played, the chaos that happened last time out on the Bank Holiday Monday, the 7-goal win with Southampton, they're swinging. Steve Cooper's just like, yep, go. We're not gonna be boring. We're at home. It's a chance to get 3 points against the folks at the bottom of the table. Took them a while, but they did it. I mean, they were favored. Don't get me wrong, at a plus 102, but they got it done. I mean, Everton was the shocker last round at almost a plus 750, knocking off Brighton and shocking them at the Amex. And I imagine that Roberto De Zerbi, this week in the Premier League, has found out that, maybe we need to play better at home. I'm sure that there was a lot of running, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of film, or maybe they just chucked the film. But yeah, Brighton gave Everton a bit of a chance, really did. Just to recap where things stand heading into the weekend, we'll go over all the games in just a bit. What you're staring at, once again, Manchester City a point ahead, match in hand. Newcastle's at 65 points, played 34 matches. Right now, they're 2 points ahead of Manchester United, who played the same amount of matches. Liverpool's played 35. They've charged up as of late. They're that first Europa League spot, 5 points ahead of Spurs, who played 35 matches, and they've lost 3 of 5. Brighton is at 55 points, but they have 2 matches in hand. One of those is in the middle of next week. So they've got some busy work here to try to catch up with Spurs. Right now, they're in the Europa Conference League spot. Villa's at 54. Then you get that group in the middle that is kind of hanging out. And then now it's up for the financial redistribution place. Brentford at 50, Fulham at 48, broke a 3-game losing streak. Chelsea finally snapped their 4-game losing streak and their just horrendous run last time out with a win over Bournemouth. And that was tied for a while. 2 goals in the 80s. Chelsea's at 42, Palace, Wolves, 40, Bournemouth at 39. You figure with 3 matches to go, they're all safe. They just need like 1 point or more. West Ham's at 37. They snapped that 3-game losing streak last time out. But what's it going to be like for West Ham this weekend as they get Brentford, since they just came out of the first leg of Europa Conference semi and beat AZ Alkmaar 2-1. So they're 90 minutes away from chasing after that first title in 47 years. So now the fun begins. We mentioned all the underdogs coming into the weekend. Forest, with a horrendous goal difference of minus 31, is going to have to do it on points. They've won 2 of 3, and they are at 33 points in 16th. 3 points clear of the drop. Everton, with the win last time out against Brighton, that was massive. 32 points, goal difference of minus 21. They've only scored 32 goals in 35 matches this year. Now the drop. Leicester leads Southampton. Leicester, they've hit each column in their last 5. They're 1-2-2 in their last 5. 30 points. Goal difference of minus 15. Leeds, if they're going to get out of the drop zone, they're going to have to do it on points because their goal difference is minus 25. They're at 30 points. They've lost 4 of 5, 1 point in their last 5 matches. Then Southampton, Ruben Sayas, I think they're done. Goal difference of minus 33. They've lost 23 of 35 this year. They've lost 3 in a row and 4 of 5. So Southampton's at 24 points. They need to win out to get to 33 points and hope that everybody else falls down. I don't see that happening. Yeah, I know, Nick. Not listening, I know. So right now, Leicester's got Liverpool, Monday Night Football. So Knicks can watch the weekend and enjoy the weekend before sitting down Monday afternoon and watching Liverpool and Leicester. We were looking at the run-in, by the way, and we ran it on Prem and Proper. And if you missed it, it's a conversation that Jamie Carragher and Martin O'Neill had on Monday Night Football. And they looked at the run-in for each of the 5 clubs. They both thought that Southampton was down. They figured Southampton's done. And then, so I'll encourage you to go back and listen to what they thought. But yeah, it was for them. It was the four teams with only the 2 spots remaining: Forest, Everton, Leicester, and Leeds. So looking at Lester's run-in, Nick's earmuffs. They thought that was one of the tougher run-ins across the board. So, yeah, 4 teams, 2 spots. They both did think that Southampton was done. So we'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that going forward. So that's where we are. 10 o'clock, we start the weekend whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner rather, hopefully, than later. But, it's going to be a fun weekend across the board. It's going to be a fun weekend here. Like I said, fun weekend here. And, a fun weekend across the board. So Messi's back in training for PSG. And I know that shocks all of you. That a 2-week suspension turned into a 1-week suspension, which turned into him being back in training. So yeah, you keep an eye on that. It'll be really interesting this weekend to see what's going on across the board. Other things going on. You got the playoffs. That's the word I'm looking for. It's called a playoff, John. You got the playoffs going on in Mexico. So if you really have like late night interests in things, and if you really want to stay up late, be a bit of a night owl, and catch up with that, it's great playoff work, and it has proven that you can do midweek weekend when it comes to a playoff structure. You can do 2 legs, people. You can do 2 legs. Midweek weekend, not that hard. Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday, or you've got Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday. No doubt about it. You can do it. You can do it. I almost dropped into the Rob Schneider from the Waterboy, but no, you can do it. Bam with a public service announcement. And yes, this is also very, very cool. And if you've got, perhaps some extra, a little extra in the bank account, either go in this direction or something similar. Bam mentions that RSL this weekend is making this weekend their mental health awareness game. And it's very, very cool what they're doing. And I posted the link in the Twitch pitch. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, they've created a limited edition Mental Health Matters t-shirt and scarf to promote the importance of good mental health. RSL fans can purchase the shirts and scarves at the team store. Each t-shirt and scarf gets purchased. A portion of the proceeds donated to the Huntsman Mental Health Institute. Founded to support the Huntsman Mental Health Institute, the foundation was founded to support the institute, works to advance mental health care through community research, clinical, and education initiatives. It was established in 2021 with a vision to free the world from mental health stigmas, bring an end to mental suffering, and integrate both mind and body to improve lives of every person. You can donate. The link is in the article that I posted on the Twitch page. You can donate to a link. University of Utah Health has provided a number of resources available, celebrating on May 13th during their match against LAFC. And their last sentence is really what matters here. You're loved, you are enough, you matter. Mental health matters. And that kind of, I was debating whether or not to talk about this. It happens on television these days because folks want to sit there and they want to yell, and they want to sit there and either make fun of somebody, they want to knock somebody down. Because these days it's a lot easier to do that than to lift somebody up. It's a lot easier to sit there and knock somebody down, to sit there and start a conversation with a negative, than starting a conversation and trying to be supportive of someone and to build them up. And that's what we've tried to do here on the morning show, is try to talk about positives and be one of those places where you can go, where you can have honest conversation, back and forth conversation, genuine care for the other individual, regardless of what your point of view may be. If you have an opposite point of view, that's perfectly fine. We have never had an issue with anybody when it comes to an opposite point of view. We've never wanted to sit there and belittle. You don't want to do that in the first place. I've always been one, when it comes to conversation, is to have earnest back and forth and not cut somebody down. I mean, when I was in high school back in the late 1700s, I mean, that was what you always did. It's like you sit there and there's one of my high school classmates that comes to mind. And he would always wear the same T-shirt and jeans, at least twice a week, if not 3 times. And he was always really shy in class when he was called upon. And it was our first instinct to cut him down, to laugh at him. If he had the wrong answer, to laugh. And you look back on those kinds of things now within the prism of where we are, and sadly where debate, and I'll put that word in quotation marks, is coming from, and what constitutes filling time these days across media. There was and now I look back on that, and you sit there and you go, Nelson, you were an idiot. And you've learned from things like that. There was a show, and we all know probably, I'm going to be as thinly veiled as possible when it comes to identifying the individuals, because I don't really want to give them the time of day. Morning, Tom. You've avoided the relegation discussion this morning. We talked about the schedule and the Prem. But I did ask the question if Sam Allardyce went ahead and said that he put basically the fear of relegation into his players, and saying that they need at least a point. If you were the coach, would you do that, considering that they probably already know that, to add that much more pressure on your players? So, yeah, if you were the manager of Everton, would you go public and sit there and put the fear of relegation in your players, thinking that I'm pretty sure they already know it? That was the question this morning that we started the show with. But there is a network, one of two, and they have morning programming where they like to yell. Not to be confused with the other network that starts their yelling. Well, actually, no, they start their yelling in the morning too. They just carry it on all day long. One network yesterday that carries the basketball playoffs decided to make fun of a player for being treated for a concussion. I mean, literally, yeah, and exactly, Tom, that was kind of my point. That's why I asked it. It seems like you'd be just piling on the already existent pressure. And so the host, who is well known for being bombastic, decided basically to make fun of the player for sitting out and getting, looking under concussion protocols. And let me get I want to get the framing of it right. But the one thing that annoyed me, among all of the things that annoyed me, was the notion that you're going to sit there after a team loses, player for the last few minutes of a game takes an elbow to the head, had to leave the bench in a wheelchair. So, immediate concerns of a concussion. It was an inadvertent elbow. And thankfully, it looks like Anthony Davis will be okay for Game 6. So, inadvertent elbow, leaves the bench in a wheelchair, out for the final minutes of Game 5. So, The individual decided on national television to basically make fun of getting popped in the temple. Guy who's never played professional sports. He would eventually apologize, kind of, because here's what he said after the fact. After yelling on the show and basically making fun of a player who was being treated for a concussion. Here's what he said after, when he kind of apologized. Blowback is blowback, comes with the territory, peeps. I was in no way minimizing the seriousness of a concussion. I was questioning whether Anthony Davis really had one. But isn't that talking about the seriousness of it? Considering the play I saw and other hits I've seen him absorb, but bottom line, it was wrong for me to do. Period, my bad. So you get that in response. And that kind of set me off the wrong way. When you want to, especially today, in today's day and age, when it comes to injuries and treatment and care, and yeah, Nick's, and he did, and Taylor Twellman had things to say about it. It's disappointing, but I understand. But I get it. I get you want to cater to at least common denominators so you can get views and listens and clicks and have people sit there and make fun of what's going on, because it's the easy thing to do. It's the easy thing to do, to sit there and look at a situation, look at it at its most base level, and be that guy that you were back in high school, except now it's more amplified. You're walking down the hall, you knock the notebook out of the kid's hand, and you think it's funny. And you do those kinds of things when you're in high school. Only today now it's in front of a camera and it's more amplified, and you have more people paying attention to what you say or do or respond to than it was in high school, walking down the hall and knocking over a notebook or sitting there and slamming a locker or taking somebody's lunch and chucking it in the garbage, those kinds of things. Yes, you do, Bart. You do get to see tonight at Reverb. Yeah, I think you get to see all of us tonight. So I guess what I'm getting at is multifold here. I've always wanted, and we have always wanted, to make this a place where we can flesh out stories, where we can sit there and talk about things in depth and talk about multiple angles of stories that you guys bring to the table and others bring to the table as well, angles that we don't necessarily think of. But because of where things are today on a lot of different strata, and a lot of different aisles of the media store, there are too many of us that think that cutting folks down should be your first impulse. It's disappointing. It's disgusting. And I'd like to think I've learned from my high school days. Sadly, not all of us have. And when you have a lot of programming that wants to turn itself into basically the high school lunch table or the high school cafeteria, and we're sitting there going, pointing at the table over there, ha, 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 point the table over there, ha, ha, ha. We're not doing a lot of folks any good, because we don't know what those folks are going through. When you're poking fun at somebody, you don't know what they're going through. When you're yelling at somebody, you don't know what they're going through. When you're an adult in a situation and you're yelling either at another adult or you're yelling at someone younger than you are, and saying things that 9 times out of 10 or probably 10 times out of 9 you shouldn't say. We've got to be more careful with this kind of stuff. I know we are here and we try to be here, and I mean that both inbound, outbound from me and for those of us here, and outbound and back in from what you guys have on a daily basis. So I apologize this morning if I feel a little revved up about something. It's just that when you continually see people who think they know things and they don't, and they just go ahead and say stuff, you don't know what's going on with that other person. And when I saw that come across, and yeah, I mean, I don't watch that kind of programming. I really don't. I got too much other stuff on my plate to get bogged down and sit there and, you know, ooh, he got him. No, I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. It's been a long time since I've seen that kind of programming. And like I said, I got more stuff. I got more important stuff to do. So you look at these kinds of programming, these programming decisions that are made, and it's disappointing. So what I'm going to try to do, and I would ask that all of you out there who listen and watch on a daily basis, keep me in line when it comes to this kind of stuff. If it's not cool. The other network, David, as much as I love the Avondale hot dog establishment, it is the other network and the morning programming that is attached to someone who was his former partner. The Avondale hot dog establishment, his former partner before that gentleman jumped to that network. It's his previous partner. They were making fun of Anthony Davis, and let me see. I thought I posted the. Actually, no, I didn't. Okay, so let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Awful Announcing had it, just to give you context. I read it in my morning bulletin. That's about as close as it gets for me when it comes to looking at these kinds of things. Where is it? This is my daily newsletter. Oh, come on. So, of course, it doesn't show up in but it shows up in the daily newsletter. So, yeah, the daily newsletter at Awful Announcing, but it's out there. When you have folks that decide that, that yelling is the way to go about things. Yes, search your Twitters for the Avondale Hot Dogs former partner and Anthony Davis. That's where I'm going with this. But yeah, remind me to be better and to continue to do my best. There are things that really do trigger me, and I admit that being an old journalistic soul, that things like that really rub me the wrong way. When you want to make fun of somebody first instead of understand the situation that they're in. And it really, really rubs me the wrong way. I guess because I'm a journalist and a host and an anchor as opposed to a personality. And I guess that's where the difference, I'm trying to figure the difference out in my head. But yes, Nix, you are 130,000% correct. Your health, mental or otherwise, is more important than any job or team or whatever. And just for the record, self-preservation, when and however it reveals itself, is never wrong. And there's nothing wrong with taking time for yourself in whatever form that is. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong when folks want to sit there with an uninformed opinion or an ill-informed opinion, and they want to sit there and say things about stuff that they shouldn't. So when you see these kinds of things, don't get bogged down in it. When you see uninformed or ill-informed opinions, don't get bogged down in it. That's why, when I see a story, I'll always sit there and say, okay, here's my reference point. Go back and watch, do your own research, that kind of stuff, because I can tell you only so much in a given period of time. Weekend Whiparound starting in about 10 minutes. So, no, I apologize for going off on a triggered tangent this morning, but when you've got things that set you off, it's one of those. It was a rare instance that set me off, and it's just it was a more than a gentle reminder to build up first as opposed to tear down first. And there are too many of us that tear down first. Morning, Abby. No, Bam. No, it's perfectly fine. Do not apologize. Do not apologize at all for putting me on a tangent. We've got the space to have the tangents and have honest and earnest discussions about these kinds of things. But what happened over on that network and on that show was a reminder. It's a reminder to me about being earnest and yeah, that's true, Abby. You do. You do put me on a tangent all the time. But what happened on that show about that instance has to do with injury and making fun of someone because you don't know the full extent of what's going on in the analysis of that injury. It's profoundly poor journalism. But I get that you're being a host and a presenter, and you're supposed to present opinions and make people yell and get mad and come up with a reaction. I get it. But I think it's just as valuable to gain knowledge in a situation like that. Understand the context of the situation. Like I said, that's what we try to do here every day. Understand context instead of sitting there and going, okay, here's a reaction. Here's a story. Here's a reaction. Here's a story. Here's a reaction. It's different. Totally different. And that's why we've tried to be different here, whether it's me or Jason or Jarrett or Nick or any of our guests, any of our segments, any of our shows. Any of that stuff. We've tried to be different. So there you go. Your boy got mad, and it was a reminder about what we're doing. So it's always better to build up first and understand where folks are coming from and have context in a situation than to tear down first, belittle, point fingers, do and statements that have no emphasis in fact or research at all, or poor perspective. I get that's where networks want to go because it sells. But it's far better to build folks up and understand where they're coming from and what they're going through than sit there and try to jam on somebody because they took an elbow to the head and have to leave a game in a wheelchair. Yeah, I'll make fun of that. Yeah, let's make fun of concussions. That's brilliant. And the trying to slam in an apology and a non-apology apology is the best way that I could phrase what that was. So anyway, yeah, so that's where we are. Let me do gossip, rumor, and innuendo here before we get to the top of the second hour and get you ready for the weekend. And like I said, I got mad, and it was just a reminder. All right, so here's your gossip. Manchester United feel they'll fail to sign Harry Kane this summer. Spurs are determined to keep him, even though he'll just have 1 year left on his deal. La Liga president Javier Tebas says the departure of Sergi Busquets from Barcelona is the beginning of the path to re-sign Messi. Sure it is. How are you going to pay him? Chelsea set to put a move for Victor Osimhen on hold as they believe agreeing a deal for the striker would be too difficult this summer. Romelu Lukaku will return to Chelsea from his loan at Inter in the summer, hold talks with Mauricio Pochettino if he is in fact the new boss. Meet the new boss, possibly. Have a conversation with the new boss. So we'll see. Pochettino wants Chelsea to restart contract talks with Mason Mount, whose deal with Chelsea runs at the end of the year. Chelsea will request between 30 and 40 million pounds for Mateo Kovacic. Manchester City's interested. Villa are in talks to sign Sporting Lisbon midfielder Manuel Ugarte, also linked to Chelsea and Liverpool. Ugarte's agent says there are a number of clubs interested in the player who he expects to leave Sporting Lisbon in the summer. Manchester United getting ready to make a move for Jordan Pickford if David De Gea leaves. Manchester United interested in 20-year-old Anderlecht keeper Bart Verbruggen with De Gea's number one status at Old Trafford in doubt. Newcastle, Manchester United, Liverpool scouts have been watching Nice's center back Jean-Claire Todibo. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Emi Martinez set to leave Villa in the summer. Chelsea, Manchester United, and Spurs targeting the 30-year-old. Inter Milan chief executive Giuseppe Marotta thinks that Inzaghi will stay as manager. Added that the 27-year-old keeper Andre Onana, who's been linked to Manchester United, wants to stay. Villa want to bring in Real Madrid's Marco Asensio on a free when his contract runs out in the summer. Newcastle will face competition from PSG for Bayer Leverkusen winger Moussa Diaby. The German club wants at least 60 million euro. Arsenal looked at Diaby in January, identified him as a possible target in the summer. Bayern Munich would like to keep hold of Joao Cancelo, while Arsenal and Barcelona also interested. Brentford want 40 million for in-demand keeper David Raya. Everton have a strong interest in signing Southampton defender Salisu in the summer. Forest will refuse offers for Brennan Johnson if they stay up. Villa and Newcastle are interested. Norwich set to sign English striker Ashley Barnes when his contract with Burnley expires in the summer. And Chelsea's defender Dujon Sterling expected to move to Rangers on a free in the coming weeks. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo overseas as we get you ready for everything going on. Yes, Abby, thank you for reminding. Thank you for reminding once again. Full weekend. Yes. United team after the match. United after the match. And Jason's going to come on for Weekend Whiparound at about 10:15. So, Bam to Nick's for random. Thanks to FIFA World Cup Twitter account, he's about to watch Olympic de Medea and RC Relizan. Hey, that's cool. And Abby, on a note, since this is Mental Health Awareness Month and we talked about the scarf that's available at RSL, Faction does not ever have a spike carrier for this game. They wrap a scarf around the spike as it's carried in for all those who are dealing with mental health issues. Very, very cool. Nix, don't know if you saw Rooney's comments about the Open Cup match. They didn't bid to host, so once he found out where they'd be playing, the college field with artificial grass, they decided they wouldn't risk any first-team guys also. Because they played it at Segra. And that's where Loudoun United. So Loudoun United plays. I'm getting Loudoun United and DC United confused. Decided they wouldn't risk any first-team guys. Also, the MSL, USL back and forth lately is not good for either organ or for any organ, in his opinion. So that's where we are with that. Okay, so once again, reminder for the weekend, and there's a lot this weekend. That's the official term. There's a lot. Tonight, Reverb, if you've got your invite, check with the Flood Project on their social media to see if there are any more spaces available. Everybody's going to be there, meaning everybody from SDH and Mike and Jessica Charman. I think we're going from 7 to 9 at Reverb, the hotel, the Hard Rock Hotel, at the top of it, across the street from Mercedes-Benz. And thanks to everybody at the Reverb by Hard Rock downtown. Derek Sumter, the GM there, very, very cool for letting us come and crash the party up top tonight. So tomorrow it is Atlanta United Charlotte, unified match after. Mother's Day, 5 o'clock at the Fraction, Crown Legacy, and Atlanta United 2. So you've got all of that. So that's what's going on. Since it is hour number 2, and I've ranted for most of hour number 1, let's kind of break things up a little bit. Man, that was a long opening kickoff, wasn't it? Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15, and you get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth initiatives that they have circled on their to-do list. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, yeah, since we are in hour number 2, it is time to take the music out of loop, lower it down to an acceptable level so you can hear me, unless you want me to have it way high so you can't hear me one bit, and time to read a promo. Rotor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonized service. A Lemonized service deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. They've created that customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonized service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our other masking agents that you may have either under the sink or above you in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard, you take out that masking agent. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because when you spray the masking agent in the air, all you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at a Lemonized service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of 2 ways to come up with a price that's affordable for you, either by the cubic foot or parts per million. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. This is where I grab my pen. Go to the website, Lemonized.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from to finish a sentence in a preposition. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonized.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. A Lemonized service, proud sponsors for everything SDH on a Freestyle Friday. Trying to get that slow fade down, and it kind of sort of works, but still, you can't really do a slam fade with that music. Otherwise, it just comes up and like it did yesterday, where it's loud as hell, and you're working your way through that. Ricky on the Twitters this morning, Juve apparently has released their new jersey, and it looks like a little bit of a paint drip dry thing. According to Phil Hay and others, the Leeds United writer for The Athletic, Bielsa's close to finalizing a deal to become Uruguay's new manager. His first big test would be the 2024 Copa America. So from The Athletic, El Loco and Uruguay, getting that close. So it will be very, very interesting to see Marcelo Bielsa and Uruguay. Off to bed, Bam. Enjoy the AFL on the weekend and enjoy your matches all around the world. So, of course, since it's hour number 2, that means it's the Weekend Whiparound, patent pending trademark coming for the next 55 minutes. And we bring in Jarrett Smith to talk about everything Major League Soccer. I think Jason's going to be joining us, Jarrett, in the next 10 minutes.
He threatened to. We'll see. We'll have to see, because we're also dealing with the fact of we're also distracted currently with the U16s playing.
I was going to ask about that. So what's going on with the U16s?
So it's a MLS Next tournament.
Yep.
Win this, and then you get a win their group. I think it's if you win your group, you get a spot in the MLS Next Pro Cup, Academy Cup, not Pro, but MLS Next Cup, whatever it may be. Man, they got so many cup competitions these days. I don't even know. But U16s have been what you would generously call balling the hell out so far.
Yes.
up 1-0, but it easily could have been 3 after
Yeah.
the first half. So good performance from them so far. And yeah, so we've been watching that and just kind of going, wow, these guys are good. For those of you that don't know, that's Kevin Kratz's team. Kevin Kratz coaching the academy.
Yes, Kevin Kratz coaching the academy.
You might remember him.
Yes, he's had a few moments. So we've got
Philadelphia Union legend Kevin Kratz.
Yes,
never played a damn game for him, but pretty sure he scored against him.
Yes, that is absolutely true. Kind of like Atlanta United legend Clint Irwin, who saved penalties across the board in Open Cup. Word from Jonathan Johnson overseas. Christoph Galtier confirms Lionel Messi will start for PSG against Ajaccio tomorrow. Color me surprised when it comes to the 2-week suspension down to a week that really wasn't a week. So there you go. All right. So Weekend Whiparound, for those of you that might be new to this, is where we look at all the matches in Major League Soccer, and we will go as in-depth as we can, or as in-depth as we feel that we need to, considering that some of the matchups, they're not quite rivalry or beer sponsored, but that they are pretty decent across the board anyway. And so what we do is we will go and we'll go start time, juice boxes, and if Jarrett wants to go any further, we can. If he doesn't, or if you guys don't, we go to the next. And we're saving Atlanta United and Charlotte for when Jason shows up. 1 o'clock tomorrow, Chicago Fire, new coach bump, ? Bracketed parentheses, hosting St. Louis City SC, and
St. Louis.
They're a favorite. Chicago's a favorite at a -103.
St. Louis is due for a get-right game. Chicago could get that bounce. But I don't know. I could see this being a thing where Chicago's like, cool, man. Like, we're gonna play free and loose. And Jesus, why did we pass it to them again at the edge of the 18? St. Louis has learned that the league is actually tougher when teams don't literally pass you the ball in dangerous spots. Also, they're learning the same thing that Red Bulls teams have known for a while, which is that if teams don't want the ball and you have to build out the back yourself,
yes,
sometimes that can be problematic for you.
Yes,
if you don't have the wherewithal or the guys to do that, which they really don't right now. That's okay. It's first year. It's an expansion club. You are playing that energy drink style. You don't have the depth really, and you don't necessarily have the guys to go out there and just be horses.
yes.
So it's a tough ask, but give me St. Louis here just on like a weird game. I think that Chicago could get a balance out of this eventually. I want to see who they actually hire long term. And I still think they kind of screwed up by firing Ezra. And maybe it is the right move. It's very possible it was the right move. I'm very much in the mindset that you are just like, you are replacing windows when the window frame itself is rotting.
Yeah. And no, we talked about it with Nico yesterday. We talked about it with just anything involving all of these coaching changes that we've seen this week. Nick says that Fire went out for Greek food the other day as a team building exercise, and he says you can't lose with baklava in the belly.
But that's why you're getting the baklava.
But at the same time, if you had the baklava,
it's Chicago. It's Chicago. It's probably like some ancient recipe that we are not aware of. So he might be right.
Yes. 7:30.
It is some old country.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like recipe.
Yes.
That we are not privy to. That's okay. We are not worthy.
Absolutely true. 7:30 at Stade Saputo, and there will only be Montreal fans in the house. For a CF Montreal impact, probably, maybe, possibly, never, sooner rather than later, as they host Toronto FC because they're a +119 because of fights in the stands for the Canadian Championship match that was at BMO, and the CF Montreal fans called out Toronto saying, you knew we were coming, and you said that there was going to be extra security, and then video shows up of fans beating up other fans in the stands. And so Montreal was like, nope, if you're a Toronto fan, we'll give you a refund, but that that section is not going to be available for anybody.
Yeah.
So, I got CF Montreal in this one. Also at 7:39, Crew hosting the Purple Team at a minus 133, and your draws a plus 279, and Orlando is a plus 362 in the composite going to lower.com.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. That's what I'm saying.
Draw.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Crew.
Crew, man, like we talked about this. Like the Crew are not. There's something's wrong with the Crew. Like it's not perfect. Like the Crew ate some ceviche that wasn't cooked correctly, or something other happened. The Crew got some problems they got to work through. They got to have a talk with God at some point in the near future.
Yep.
And man, maybe Orlando is your get right game. I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Yes, exactly. According to the Toronto Star, Nick's reminded us on the alert. It was revealed that by Bob that son Michael was flying that son Michael was scheduled to leave yesterday to undergo a hamstring procedure in England. Neil Davidson at the Canadian Press. So, longest list that he has ever had, that Bob has ever had with injuries. Mm-hmm. Michael Bradley scheduled to leave for England later in the day to undergo a procedure Saturday in London on his hamstring. The procedure will be done by Dr. Ernest Childers, considered a world-leading expert in adductor and groin problems in athletes.
I think it was Dwayne Rollins who mentioned yesterday when the injury list came out, basically said, like, you mean to tell me the oldest team in the league's having injury problems?
Mm-hmm.
Because, oh my God, Atlanta cannot buy a goal. I'm sorry, I'm watching the 16s for doing this.
We'll talk about the 16s too while we're on. Well,
they're finding space. Their left and right backs are absolutely putting Marietta Academy in hell, and they just cannot find that second goal. And they should have scored 2 in the second half. And it's still 1-0. It needs to be more than that, because I don't like 1-0 games like this, because they played Marietta off the park, but they're 16 years old. This is the kind of game. Yeah, and this is an Apple TV, though, if y'all have it. This is the kind of game, though, with 16-year-olds where you play a team off the park and you end up giving up a really stupid goal.
Yes.
And end up with a draw that you don't deserve. That you played better than that draw.
Yes. So a midfielder, Alonso Cuello, is the latest to join the list. He limped off in the 22nd minute in the Canadian Championship quarterfinal. So it is now officially Osorio, Vasquez out. Hedges, O'Neill, Sigur Rosted, and Jordan Peruzza dealing with injuries. Christian Gutierrez recovering from a non-COVID illness. And Michael Bradley flying to London for a procedure with an adductor and groin specialist on Saturday.
Adductor and groin specialist.
Apparently, he's like the worldwide groin and adductor specialist. So, 38 folks on the Toronto roster that are injured. DC and Nashville at DC. DC is a plus 125. Nashville on the road's a plus 227, and the draw is about the same.
Oh, take if you're gonna get a team at home in MLS with a plus number, you take it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't condone ever putting money on MLS games, because this is a sickos league to bet on. We've talked about this. Will and I have talked about this, that if you go to a website to put in, or go to Vegas or something, or anywhere around the world to put in numbers for an MLS match, it should redirect you to a help website.
Yes,
but if you can get plus numbers at a home game, because DC is going to try and play direct to Benteke. Now that's going to be tough, because Nashville's pretty well suited to deal with that. But if they can snatch something early and make Nashville have to play on the front foot, I really like their chances.
So then, taking that theory forward, Inter Miami is hosting the Revs at DRVP&K, and they're a plus 154. The Revs are a dog at a plus 173.
Well, here's the thing. Was last week, and I don't know the answer to this. Is this a matter of is this a thing where it was Joseph Martinez like coming to life finally in what he can be for Miami, or was that his get up game?
Yeah.
What else does he have in the pocket to play with? If he can give you that off the bench, we talked about like he's not a DP player at this point. Now maybe he grows back into that. I don't know. I don't know how his body dealt with the recovery. I don't know if he can improve further.
Right.
I don't know. That being said, if he is just a guy who can give you, 30, 35 minutes off the bench in hell,
yeah,
that's a great piece to have. May not score you 2 goals every game, but it's a great piece to have.
Right.
But you got to get more from you got to get more from Campana too.
Yeah, and Nick says the Revs roll at a plus 173. I tend to go with Nick's. Let's talk Atlanta and Charlotte, and we'll bring in this guy.
What's up?
How's the U16 match going?
1-0. Second half's a little rockier than the first. Really good play though, and I mean you're looking for a combination of two things with this age group, especially like. And Steve Cook has talked about this with Atlanta United too. I mean, you have to learn how to win. You have to learn how to get results, but results aren't going to drive the process necessarily. This is a tournament, so the results are going to be more important. They're playing like an Atlanta United team in terms of being aggressive to win the ball back, wanting to use the ball to dominate the play. They've done that. They've put one off the bar. They have had tons of chances. They got the goal in the first half, but they haven't found the second goal yet. And that second goal is always key. Right now, it's 61st minute. Murrieta is starting to feel themselves a little bit here at the first part of the second half, but I don't know how their legs are going to be as it goes
on. Busy weekend in and around Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Every weekend is busy, John.
Well, this is what we got. We got Friday. We got tonight at Reverb.
Yes.
We've got the match tomorrow with Charlotte and Atlanta. We got the unified match after that.
Yes.
And then the perfect Mother's Day gift, Crown Legacy and Atlanta United 2 at 5:00 on Sunday afternoon.
Yes, all of the above.
How many pages of notes do you have for the weekend, sir? How much preparation do you have?
I mean, a decent bit, but this is also a Charlotte team that we've seen this season, so that helps a ton on a busy weekend. We've got plenty of notes on the unified match, which I'm looking forward to. That's always fun to be part of. I'll be jumping into the broadcast after full-time report on 98.9 The Game, and then Crown Legacy. I mean, this is a good test for Atlanta United too. Back at home after a great start on the road, but they don't finish that off, and Miami comes back to win it. So now can you get back to where you were before you went out on the road? And we will see how that looks on Sunday. But it's going to be a lot of fun across the board on all of it.
Jarrett, what do you have? What's on your mind this morning?
Charlotte's a different looking team than we saw when Atlanta went to Charlotte earlier in the season. They seem to have figured out where people play on the field versus where people can theoretically play on the field. The one guy that actually scored over the weekend on one of the most huffing paint goals I've seen in a while, not over the weekend, excuse me, in the U.S. Open Cup, as Joswiak ran like a baby deer with new legs and kind of stumbled his way to a goal. It seems like he's kind of come to life, and I don't know if it's maybe getting his first goal kind of took some of the pressure off of him. Have you seen anything that's different from his game that would point to him actually waking up?
No, I mean, it's one of those things that you have to look at things in multiple layers here. And Jóźwiak, I think it's easy to say, he's been very, very bad because he hasn't scored goals and he hasn't had assists. But it's kind of on a lesser scale, or a different scale, maybe it's a better way to put it, as what we're seeing with Luis Araujo, in that, these are two guys who are designated players. These are two guys who you expect to impact the game in the final third. And they haven't enough, on the scale that they are on. But what both have done and what both do that give me hope that they will both perform at the attacking end of the field is the work that they put in defensively. And that's something you could never take away from Kamil Jóźwiak. He always was working. The final product wasn't there for him. Luis Araujo, when the final product isn't there for him, and it hasn't been for a little while, it was last time we were in Charlotte, he's always working. And that's going to keep him on the field. That's going to keep getting him opportunities. It's when attacking players aren't producing in the attacking third and aren't giving you anything else that it's easy to make changes. But when they are putting in the work, they're going to get more opportunities because of that. And that's the thing about Jóźwiak. Sometimes it just takes that time. How many times have we seen guys come to MLS and it's year 2 before they really start to calibrate themselves to the league? And I feel like maybe Jóźwiak is that. You also got to remember at times last year, Charlotte was very mix and match in terms of the way the shape worked and how things fit. And they were early this season as well, honestly. And I think maybe Christian Lattanzio is starting to figure out his best idea of how to play. He's not going to be able to do that this week, though, because you're not going to have Enzo Capetti. You're not going to have Derek Jones. I don't know exactly how they replace them or what they do to try to solve those issues. They've also got some injuries. But just getting Jóźwiak into a position where he can feel confident, I think helps. And you start to get a goal, you start to get an assist, you start to impact games, and that confidence level goes up. And he's been in a good vein of form here, but he's not 100%. So is he ready to start, or is he going to be that option in the second half? I'm leaning a little more towards the latter.
And they had Open Cup midweek, and Jóźwiak came on for a cup of coffee in that one. And you don't know if you're going to have Malanda, Tuiloma, Mora. They're all injured to a certain degree. It's going to be intriguing to see how Charlotte lines up because of injuries and yellow card accumulation and minutes from midweek, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see the conversation with this stuff. Whenever we talked about injuries with Atlanta United, it felt like, that angered folks, and everybody else is dealing with injuries right now, and it's being talked about in the way that it should be, because it has a huge impact. And just like I was saying about Jóźwiak, when you start to get a little bit of confidence and you get injured, that can derail you. When the team starts to get a bit of a flow and injuries happen and the chemistry changes, that can derail you. And I think we're seeing that across the league right now, where a bunch of teams are having injury issues because it's kind of that point in the year where you might have some muscle injuries, you might have some problems, and the games are starting to pile up. So you've got to manage the minutes and the workload for people, and you've got to find ways to win when you're not at 100%. And that's the biggest thing for Charlotte in this one. Can they continue to build on the momentum where they've won 5 of their last 10? The Atlanta 16s just got the second goal that they needed desperately, and it was Nathan Gray who got it, who's been outstanding in this game.
Attaboy.
Breaking news. There you go. Awesome stuff. And the whole academy is celebrating this, which is very cool to see. They ran off
the whole academy might as well be calling the game.
Basically, yeah, they were leading the cheers in the first half. It was very cool. What a goal too. Good grief, what a goal. That's awesome. There you go. Well-timed breaking news there. Good job. Good stuff. Anyway, yeah, I think Charlotte has got to figure out a way to, in some form or fashion, keep the momentum that they have. Because as I do pull my notes up that I was working on this morning, they are 5-2-3 since that game in Charlotte that Atlanta won. It's a really good clip. Can they do it on the road where they have not been very good in general? Only 4 wins in their lifespan on the road. And can they do it without the pieces that they're going to be missing? I mean, my guess is Świderski up top by himself, which isn't his best position. Who comes in as the 10? Your guess is kind of as good as mine. Maybe Bender. Who plays for Jones? Who plays for Malanda? If Soboshinsky plays, pace is going to be an issue for them at center back. Does Justin Merrim get the start? He's been playing pretty well for them since coming over in a trade. Mackenzie Gaines, we know what his speed can do, and you've got to deal with that. But can you make him defend, which isn't the comfortable spot for him? So it's kind of a weird game for Atlanta United when you prepare for something like this, because you don't know exactly what you're walking into, and you don't know what surprises, in a good way, Charlotte could pull. If they want to play Brant Bronico at left back again, have at it. That'd be great. Love to see it. But they can pull some other surprises with a player in a different spot than you expect that can change the chemistry in a good way. That can happen too.
Jarrett, go for it.
No, I'm thinking of Brent Bronico playing left back again. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that thoroughly. So did Thiago Almada. He thoroughly enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Yes, Luis Araujo, I enjoyed that as well.
Sadly, Caleb Wiley won't be there. And speaking of Caleb Wiley,
Caleb Wiley will be there. He will be there.
I thought he left for the U20s already.
No, man, read the press releases. Come on. Sorry. He's leaving after this game.
Okay. Even with Caleb Wiley there, what?
Ay, Dios mío.
Leave me alone. You're not going to fire me again.
I can.
Yet. As far as one of the other guys we want to see more of is Derek Etienne Jr. And the reason I brought up Caleb Wiley, because Caleb Wiley did ball out in the game in Charlotte in the first place, and it's going to be a big opportunity for Derek Etienne Jr. in the coming weeks to really show something, and maybe tomorrow he does get an opportunity, whether it's starting, whether it's off the bench. You talk about a team that you're trying to figure out what Charlotte is going to do, whether they. How do they defend in this? Because they're not the swiftest, and Atlanta can really just flat out outrun you, especially on the outside. How do you work a guy like that in and hopefully use this as a game to springboard his confidence, even if it's only for 20 or 30 minutes, the way you did for Wiley.
Yeah, you've got to get him going. To both of your starting wingers that I think you walked into the season expecting with Etienne and Araujo, you need to get them going. And, we started to see them flip a little bit more with Luis on the left and Derek on the right, getting them into more of natural winger position. So they're on their strong foot as opposed to being inverted. It can work. Obviously it can, because that's the way that a lot of teams will play. But also you're seeing a lot of teams go to inverted wingers because they can cut inside. What it does is it changes the shape and it changes the positioning. And when you're a team in a positional play kind of idea, Atlanta just gave up a goal. So now it's 2-1 in the 71st minute. Almost saved it in the 6-yard box. That's why you need that second goal. Absolutely. So when you go from inverted wingers where you're wanting to create the space for those guys to cut inside to normal wingers where they're going to stay outside, like that changes Lennon's spot, especially. What is going on now?
Virus and threat protection, apparently.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Whatever. I didn't do it. How about that?
I got a bolo from my computer. Just as virus and threat protection happening. So there you go.
Ay, Dios mío. Anyway, so
look, at least his computer's working, because that thing was dead as a doornail last week.
Oh,
yes.
Geez.
Jason continues.
Yeah. So when you go from inverted to normal wingers, then they're going to stay wider, and then Brooks Lennon's positioning has to adjust. And does he come inside more? At Groupman, I think that's a little bit easier. But for Lennon, you don't want to take him away from some of those spots. So do you still have Etienne come inside, even though he's going to be on his right foot? Things like that you've got to sort out. Maybe that can unlock them. I don't know. I think the other possibility, and I mentioned Lennon, is if it doesn't start to unlock and you don't start to get more production, and you're going to have a lot of midweek games as well, so you're going to have to rotate anyway. Do you see Ronald Hernandez at right back and Brooks Lennon at right wing? And I think you will. I don't know if that's going to be a starting possibility or if that's going to be more of a late game possibility. But I think you will see that some over the span of time, especially if the wingers aren't producing as much as they need to, and you need more out of them.
How much longer do we have you, by the way?
A couple more minutes.
Okay.
Couple more. I'm sorry.
He's watching the game over his shoulder anyway.
Yeah, the game's over there. I'm okay.
Well, it's not over his shoulder. He's staring at it. It's not over his shoulder.
It's not. Yeah, it's not back here. It's over there.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks were excited at the prospect of seeing Yorgi Shakamakis back at practice. Garth Lagerwey said this week, though, you're not going to rush him back because you want him for the stretch. You want him for the longer term. What are you anticipating up top?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he trained fully yesterday from what Gonzalo Pineda said after training, but he also talked about being careful with him. And, they felt like he was in a good spot when he played against Chicago, and obviously he wasn't, and they lost him for a couple of weeks after getting a goal out of him early. So you've got to be careful. My guess is if he is available this weekend, and I think there's a chance that he is, he's not going to start. I think he's going to be on a pretty severe minutes limitation. And in a perfect world, you get up a couple goals and you don't need to play him. So that's my guess. That's my hunch, but I don't really know. The fact that he trained fully yesterday makes you feel pretty good about his potential inclusion to some degree.
And then if you're putting it together, how are you putting that front line together if they hand you the sheet? And yeah, I mean, if it's Miguel Berry up top, if it's Matchup Chol, who I like the idea of Matchup Chol. I feel like he's been most effective when he's been able to come into a game and jump into the flow of it and impact it versus when he started. How would you line it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of flipping a coin between those two right now. And I would go with Chol to start. I want his energy in there to start at home. I want his pressing ability in those situations, because I think that's where you can really get at Charlotte on Saturday night as well, as whatever their back line is going to look like. If it's Soboshenski, Byrne, Lindsay, I don't know who else is going to be at center back and what this is going to look like. Harrison Awful. I mean, do you tuck Byrne in as a center back who's played there at some point this season and it didn't go all that well, but you're kind of scrambling a little bit. Does Diop play, the rookie? Any of those combinations really make you feel good about your counter pressure and forcing turnovers. And that's why I would go with Chol up top. The speed advantage would be the way to go. And then you figure it out from there. I mean, it depends on if Giacomakis is available to come in late. If you need to chase it, he would be who you turn to. If you're bringing on fresh legs in that point, you'd bring on Barry. You do have the possibilities at that stage, and things get interesting with the idea of a Tyler Wolff as a 9. That's something that Gonzalo Pineda has brought up. I don't think you start that way, but is it something that you can use? He's going to play it not true false 9-ish, because he's played plenty on the front line, but he's going to move a good bit because of playing all those other positions too. So his movement will be really good, and you just have to kind of work around that. Other guys are going to have to react to his movement. And is that chemistry going to work? I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. Maybe not in this one. I don't think to start for sure, but when you get into these Wednesday games, maybe you start to see Tyler Wolff get that opportunity. And look, I want to see what Tyler Wolff's reaction is going to be to missing out on the U20s, because he was part of that group earlier this year. And he hasn't had a great start to 2023. It hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been what it needed to be to get into that World Cup team. So that disappointment, does it bring him down, or does it, in some ways, tick him off? And do you see a more intense Tyler Wolff and really trying to make a point that, hey, I should have been in that group? I'd love to see that attitude if that's the reaction that you get.
How much time is left in the U16 match?
We are in the 77th minute, and Atlanta just got a corner.
Okay. I will leave you to the remainder of that match so you can watch it and find out what's going on with the U16s against Murrieta. Broadcast plans, what are they?
So, well, tonight, first off, we're not going to have a live broadcast tonight. It's going to be a full house at Reverb, it appears, which is going to be awesome. Mike Conti making an appearance. I think there might still be a few tickets available. Go to the Flood Projects page to fill out the Eventbrite to reserve your spot, and cross your fingers that they haven't all been gone at this point. I do not have an update as of this morning yet. But we are going to record it, and we will have some stuff from that'll pop up on our social medias and on our podcast page as well, wherever you get your Soccer Down Here podcast. So that's tonight. The show will start about 7 o'clock, maybe a little bit after, run till about 9. I think the rooftop's open till 11. So hopefully we will see a lot of you down there. And then tomorrow, 7 o'clock for Five Stripes Countdown, 7:39 on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app and the Atlanta United app. And on MLS Season Pass, you can change to the home radio option and listen to us there. Full-time report after, then I will hop in an elevator and go down to the field, because I think we're field level, to call the unified game with John and with Joe Fryhofer, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then Sunday, we will have Atlanta United 2 and MLS Next Pro, and that game is a 6 o'clock kick, isn't it?
That is 5.
5? We've had so many different times. I can't keep up. It's very strange.
Is an illusion.
Hang on.
We've had 5s, we've had 6s, we've had 7s, we've had 7:30s, I think, already with Atlanta United 2.
5, according to the league website.
Okay, so it is a 5 o'clock kick. So we will be on the air at 4:45 to get ready for Atlanta and Crown Legacy, Charlotte FC's MLS Next Pro affiliate.
Yep. So it's going to be a full weekend. Go watch the rest of the match.
Yep.
All
Adios.
right. Be good. Jason comes and hangs out. Oh, you got a TIFO for the United game. Very, very cool. That's awesome. All right. So, Tom, to answer your question, don't know. Not expecting Gigi to start. Is he out? Don't know. Yes, he practiced fully. Just don't know his level of fitness, etc. And once again, remember, you got 8 matches in the month of May. And so you're also thinking long-term, and you don't want to rush him back. So availability versus minutes versus schedule compression, you got to weigh all that stuff. But the best answer we can give is dunno when it comes to starting. But what we wanted to do was, in case Giakoumakis does not start, talk about the options going up against what Charlotte could look like, because Charlotte could be an adventure in and of themselves. So there you go. A couple of other quick notes before we get back into it. Abby Urseg has signed a long-term extension, or an extension with Racing Louisville that'll keep her there through 2024. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And there's also penalties against Birmingham City in the EFL for they got reprimanded. So they got the finger wag. They got the finger wag of doom. Deducted.
Is that like the Juventus finger wag?
Pretty much. They're to be deducted 2 points that are suspended until the end of next year after admitting to a breach of EFL regs. Charged in February with breaching the owners and directors test after they allowed a number of individuals to bring themselves within the definition of a relevant person and to acquire control of the club without the governing body's prior approval. As a result, 3 individuals received sanctions last month. They've now entered into an agreed decision with the EFL, which includes suspending the sporting penalty and liability for the associated costs of the investigation. In addition, another individual has entered into an agreed decision with the EFL after admitting to a breach when he permitted Maxco representatives to acquire control of the club without prior approval. So Birmingham City sounds like a bunch of fun folks right now. So there you go. Back to Weekend Whiparound for the final 20 minutes and getting into the other matches that are there. Hudson River is the last 7:30 match. You've got possible new coach bump with Troy Lacine at a -104. NYC comes to Red Bull Arena in New Jersey at a +316.
Give me the new coach bump. Also, New York City is basically an entirely different team when they have to go play on the road.
Yes.
They've been very bad on the road.
Yes.
Like comically, like Charlotte, the way Charlotte is bad when they go on the road. That's what New York has been.
Even if it's 12 miles to the east, it's still
if it's 12 miles to the east, it doesn't matter. The field's bigger, and they have like this thalassophobia of a soccer field.
Yes. Copa Tejas starts off our 8:39s. Austin at Q2 hosting FC Dallas. They are favored at a +125. FCD is a plus 208 on the road going to Austin. Austin's just not good. I got to go draw at the very.
No, they're not.
So I've got to go draw at the very least here at a plus 248, and since that's the largest number on the board, that's where I'll go. Houston and Seattle. Houston under Ben Olsen hosting Seattle, who got thumped by Sporting Kansas City. Who knew? Houston at a plus 154 at home. The Sounders, Nico Moreno said that they're going to be really pissed, and he's going Seattle in this one at that plus 185 marker. Draws a plus 2.25.
Seattle.
Yeah, I'm thinking Seattle too.
They're due for a punishment game where they hurt somebody.
So here's the next one on the board at 8:30. Sporting, coming off of that fresh win in Seattle, hosting the Loons, and they are a minus 105 at home, hosting Minnesota United, and apparently it looks like Bebe Reynoso has started his trek and gradual return to be a part of their lineup. Minnesota United is a plus 278 at Sporting, who are still pretty bad.
Yeah, give me Minnesota here. Like, good on you, Sporting. That was hilarious last week, and it was peak MLS. Do I think you can do it 2 weeks in a row? Not really.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I got to go with Minnesota here. I don't think it's going to be the prettiest game on the planet.
No.
Speaking of not the prettiest game on the planet, your 9:30s, Prairie Dogs and the Rapids hosting Philadelphia. And the Rapids are favored at a plus 154. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia's a plus 180, by the way. Draws a plus 2.25.
Give me Philly.
Okay.
Give me Philly in like a weird sort of get right.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be like a blowout city kind of a thing. I think
Sue's just drew a penalty. Oh, I'm sorry. The 16s just drew a penalty, by the way.
Yes, we like that. What minute?
85th.
Cool. So keep an eye on that with it being 2-1 and hopefully more than that in just a few seconds. RSL hosting LAFC. RSL is a home dog at a plus 200. LAFC, who brought in their middle school squad in the midweek to go up against Monterey Bay, and they still won in penalties, so they still have 3 competitions that they have to pay attention to and not 2. LAFC is a plus 125.
Penalty was saved.
At Rio.
Was
10.
not greatly taken. Keeper guessed right. Also wasn't really. Didn't get it far enough in the corner.
Okay. So LAFC I assume that LAFC is going to bring back their first team and not have their U12s out there like they did in Open Cup. They're a plus 125 at Rio Tinto against RSL, who's a plus 200.
I mean, LAFC just chugging on along whenever the black magic of San Jose doesn't bite them.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I got to go with LAFC in that one, too. Your 10:39 match is Portland and Vancouver as a part of Cascadia. Portland is a home favorite at a plus 134. Your draw is a plus 241. Vancouver is a plus 200 on the road at Portland.
Well, I do like to not pick against Portland if I can help it. So there's that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that. I got to go with Portland just because of the home thing that we were talking about. So I got to go with Portland at home, and then you got Cali Classico as your last match on the weekend. 9:30 Sunday night. Galaxy hosting the San Jose Earthquakes at a minus 116. Your draw is a plus 283. San Jose is a plus 290 in that one.
San Jose.
Here's your total.
San Jose is not perfect.
No.
They're not.
Be good, Abby.
But
Yeah.
San Jose is also not an absolute tire of fire from hell.
No. So your plus 2.5 is a minus 159, by the way. And it finally flips at 3 and 3.5. 3.5 as your total is a plus 154. So that's when it starts to get on the plus side. 3.25, 3.5.
And this the thing is, you can tell me any numbers you want on the face of the earth, and I'm going to take San Jose in this game. There's not a world in which I'm going to take the Galaxy. You can spin numbers however you want. If you want to talk over-unders, that's fine. If you want to talk totals, that's fine. If you want to talk reds and yellows and all that jazz, that's fine.
Yeah.
As far as straight-up winning, there's nothing you can tell me that is going to make me decide, you know what, LA Galaxy have got their ish together.
Yeah. Not happening. No, but that's I got. I'm gonna take. I would take a total in this one before I would do anything else, just because of how crazy this particular game can get. So I have zero desire in picking a side. I will, however, take the over at 3.5 at that plus number. So that's what I'm staring at. Then you get into the midweek. So so next week, actually, we will have on Wednesday. Wednesday will end up being midweek whip around Wednesday in hour number 1 before Dylan and Bart show up in hour number 2. I just realized that. We get our first midweek whip around this week.
Yep. Nothing else to add to that. Yep.
Yeah.
You've all been warned.
Yes. So, I mean, it is something to look at. So we'll have 2 whip arounds in next week's action. So that's going to be pretty cool. We had mentioned the full weekend, Jarrett, and what we're staring at with Atlanta United 2 and Crown Legacy. I mean, obviously you got matches tonight because of how it all operates. But one of the focus games on the Next Pro website is the Twos and Crown Legacy. Legacy.
Twos have won 3 out of 4. Should have been 4 in a row. It's an awful loss over last weekend to blow a 2-goal lead and lose 3-2 to Miami. Like it's a great goal. I don't care that it's a great goal. You don't want to. You want to learn. You talked about you got to learn how to win.
Yes,
and that's a rough loss because they played for a chunk of that game. They played well enough to win their 4th in a row. The Twos have been really good in the last few games, and the Crown Legacy has been really good. So I don't doubt them for making it a game to watch.
And it also helps Crown Legacy when you're trying to rehab Christian Kalina, and you've got him between the sticks for some of your early matches.
Yeah, I mean they've been good outside of him though.
Yeah, I mean, Yuri Tavares has 5 goals, matching Nick Firmino's start with 5, and this one. I mean, seriously, I cannot state this enough. Obviously, we'll have it on the network starting at 4:45. But at the same time, if you can make it, if you've gotten all of your Mother's Day stuff taken care of, or if you, like I said, I will continue to promote this as a Mother's Day thing. Take your mom to Atlanta United 2 and Crown Legacy. The match is going to be that good. If you're in that part of the planet and can make it, go see Atlanta United 2 and Crown Legacy because it's going to be that good. It's going to be that fun of a matchup. Crown has scored 2 or more goals in 6 of their 7. Yuri Tavares has 5 of the goals so far this year. 19 points out of the blocks for Crown Legacy. But when it comes to the Twos, Jarrett, I mean, it's more than just what we've seen from Nicholas Firmino. For those that haven't had the chance to either listen on the network to the Twos matches or go up to the Fraction or see him on the road, what have you seen so far from the development of the Twos this year outside of Nick Firmino and him pretty much taking over matches at points?
I mean, Nick Firmino's a lot of it, though. Eric Centeno seems to have, found another step or some confidence or a mixture of the two. Eric Centeno has been really good when he's been in there. Luke Brennan seems to have taken a step in the last few weeks. It's been really fun to watch as well. The weird thing is, honestly, is in the midfield and the back line, where you kind of have like flipped things around, where you have taken a guy who was always kind of pegged to be a 6 in Efrain Morales, and you put him on the back line. And last week's game notwithstanding, it's been really good with Morales and Cobb back there. And Morales might have like, as one door closes, another one opens. He might have opened the door as a center back and not being a holding midfielder. It's been very impressive. Kareem Tamimi, goals in back-to-back games. He has stepped up when he had to because he had to.
Yes. Because
you were in a situation where you want to talk about like an unfortunate timing of injury is Eric Lopez. You would have loved to have had Eric Lopez against Memphis. You would love to have had Eric Lopez. You would love to have had him as well against any of these teams as an option. But he got banged up, so he wasn't able to be a part of that picture going forward. Now you're just waiting for him to get healthy. It sounds like it was like a bad ankle sprain.
Yeah.
And Twomasi's been good as well, kind of changing things up. The one guy I've been waiting to see more of is Nelson Orji, because Nelson Orji was a guy last year that I was a big fan of. Jack Collison was a big fan of what he gave you. He hated center forwards. It was amusing. He just played with so much desire to make you miserable, but he hasn't gotten on the field. He was banged up early in the season. He hasn't gotten on the field, and really, I don't know where you'd put him right now unless you're going to go start playing 3 center backs all the time, which isn't what Atlanta's wanting to do in this developmental stage.
Right.
They want to play with 2 center backs. They want to play a 4-3-3. And I don't know where you put him right now, because you're getting the performance you need out of Noah Cobb and out of Efrain Morales. And Noah Cobb is ungodly fast. He doesn't look it, but he is. Efrain Morales is basically a large storage unit standing back at center back. And I don't know how you get some of these guys. I mean, how you find time for some of these guys. And you'll find time, because you're about developing. It's not just, it's not like the first team where it's just win, baby. It's, you are looking at developing and seeing how guys play together and seeing how guys take those opportunities. So I will be very interested to see, how that center back setup changes. We saw Guerra in goal last weekend, gave up 3 goals. The last one, definitely not on him. I thought he could have done better on the first 2 personally.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been in goal because Vicente Reyes won't let anyone else in between the sticks, and Justin Garces is still coming back from an injury.
Right.
That it sounds like he had the ACL injury last year that it didn't necessarily require surgery, but was just like one of those that just takes a while to heal up.
Right.
So he's still working to come back from that, and Vicente Reyes has taken that jump, man.
No doubt.
The 16s have picked up a victory 2-1.
Yes, over Marietta Academy. Nicely done.
So yeah, that's kind of where it stands with the kids, man. They've been good. They struggled out of the gate. They found themselves, and it was weird against Philadelphia. They had to hang on, and they did. They gutted that game out, and they survived it. It was well done. Now the question is, can they learn from the Miami game, where they should have been able to do the same and they were not able to?
Yep.
Now you have to go back out there and face a really tough Crown Legacy team.
Yep.
But you've got a lot of younger players, and even some guys in their mid-20s, like Kareem Tamimi. He's a little bit older. Nelson Orji's a little bit older, not necessarily a teenager. I want to see I want to see how these guys react and how the leaders react to it, and how they're able to kind of be leaders, for lack of having a better term for it.
Yep. And we'll catch up with Steve Cook and Kareem Tamimi on our conference call. We'll catch up here in a couple of minutes at the top of the hour. Before we go, A couple of other things. Fantasy, once again, join the Fantasy League if you haven't had the chance. Join the Fantasy League. Be better than me because I think I'm in the relegation fight right now. So go to the Jason Wright Agency Facebook page, Wright with a W, Jason Wright with a W-A-G-E-N on Twitter. We have Matt Wojo, who has come up with the options this week for the Fantasy League. His lock for goalkeeper defense is Brooks Lennon. Only 11% have picked up Brooks Lennon so far. His lock in midfield and forward is Denny Bouanga, who's at 11.4 million, and only 20% have picked up Denny Bouanga so far. Once again, this is from Matt Wojteko and at Matt_Wojo on Twitter. His consider in net and defense is Jonathan Sirois, who is for CF Montreal against Toronto at 6 million. 13% have picked him up so far. His consider in the midfield is Thiago Almada at 13.5. 1/3 of the players in the Fantasy League have picked Thiago so far. Value picks, Mikhail for Houston on defense at 5.5 against Seattle. And he's going to step in for a Teenage Hadibi against Seattle, who's missing a couple of players on their own. And his value pick in the midfield and forward is Bryce Duke at 6.8 million against Toronto. 1% have Bryce Duke so far when it comes to Fantasy League. According to Matt, Duke's made the most of his increased playing time so far since the trade from Miami, and a goal and an assist so far for the new team. Growing injury list, Duke and the rest of the attack could be a sneaky good source for points. So at Matt_Wojo, at Jason Wright with a W-A-G-E-N on Twitter. That's your look at the Fantasy League for week number 12. Wrapping up with stuff on the TV today. Busy weekend across the board. BN and BN Espanol have League at 3 o'clock. Lens and Ream. ESPN Deportes have La Liga at 3, Mallorca and Cádiz. And at Tijuana and Guadalajara at 10 in Liga MX Femenil. Fox Deportes has Liga MX Femenil, Juarez and Puebla at 9. Goal TV, Ecuadorian Primera, Deportivo Cuenca and Mushuk Runa, one of the teams that we followed in soccer over there at 8 o'clock. The Flex U16 tournament continues on Season Pass at 11:30 and 2. Flex U19 is at 4:30. Next Pro tonight, both matches are on Apple TV and on Season Pass. Chicago Fire 2 and Hunt City, Earthquakes and North Texas Hunt City. Next week, they get their home match, first ever at Joe Davis. Out of football, Frauen Bundesliga at 1:15, Bayern Munich and Hoffenheim. Golasso Network has Serie A at 2:45, Lazio Lecce, NWSL tonight at 7:30. The Plus has the Bundesliga at 2:20 with Köln and Hertha. Playoff semifinals start in League One. Peterborough and Sheffield Wednesday at 3. John Harkes will be watching. La Liga Santander at 3, Mallorca Cádiz. La Liga MX Femenil at 11, Tijuana and Chivas. Paramount Plus has the Argentine Primera at 7 and 8:30. Serie A at 2:45. And 2 matches available from the NWSL at 7:30 and 8:30. See you tonight at Reverb. See you tomorrow at Mercedes-Benz. Stay for the unified match. They'll have a TIFO. Come to the Fraction on Sunday. Listen and watch on all the platforms all weekend long. Jarrett, send us home.
Mucho plata, y'all.
What he said. It's the end of the show. We'll see you tonight. We'll see you Saturday. We'll see you Sunday. That means we get to do this. See you next week.